Hello there. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Mixed reactions from Ghanaians as members of parliament assign for themselves day and night security by police personnel. Some say the MPs put their personal interest ahead of citizens. Others say they deserve the extra security. We hear your views on this. Deputy Attorney General describes comments made about judges by MP Kennedy Japan as scandalous as a contempt case is transferred to a different judge, a request Kennedy Japan's lawyers have been pursuing. On day 3 of our focus on minority political parties as we gear up for the big debate later tomorrow. My guest for today is the People's National Congress's David Apasera. Let's have a conversation. DSTV 421, GoTV 144 is where you can join us. Remember, we're also streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook. Join us also on our social media platforms. Your WhatsApp is welcome on 05401090009. I am Gifty Ando Apia, and this is The Pulse. Please be my guest. You're welcome. I'll take you through the details of those stories now. Deputy Defense Minister Major Retired Derek Odro has dismissed concerns that the deployment of 200 police personnel as personal bodyguards of MPs will reduce police operational capacity. He insists the police have more than enough capacity and deployment of 200 men to MPs will not harm police operations. We'll go to Parliament shortly for that update, but security analyst Colonel Festus Abuaji is warning that the deployment will reduce the number of available personnel for patrols and visibility duties. He says the decision is a self-centered one.
To put it bluntly, self-centered. This tendency of parliamentarians, to look after their interests first, and sometimes not even address the interest of the rest of society. I mean, we know that the police hasn't got the numbers. We know they haven't got the requisite tools. We know that there are, a certain number that retires every year, a certain number that is forced to resign for disciplinary reasons, a certain number who may resign themselves. Now we get the picture that let's look at the executive side, let's look at the judiciary side, and then let's add the legislature. We're probably talking of a figure between 600 to 1,000 that is taken from this 37,500. The police does other duties, including international duties. There is a certain category of police officers who don't do patrols by nature of the appointments that they hold and the ranks. So we need the constables, we need the corporals, we need the sergeants, and we don't have them in enough numbers. So why do you take the little that you don't have and assign to the team? By this arrangement of yesterday, we have widened the inequalities in society. And now I've started calling it security apartheid, which is simply more security for some and less security for others.
In the meantime, Executive Director for the Parliamentary Affairs Center, Dr. Rashid Rahman, says the decision should not be permanent. He wants the government to focus on enhancing general security for the populace.
I think it is time. It is time for this. I have heard a lot of commentary from all of us citizens. People have raised a number of objections and so on and so forth. But, you have to look at sometimes our circumstances. And if you look at, the situation of MPs around the world and then on our continent, there have been examples where circumstances have led to parliaments and countries, taking similar actions like what our government is about to take. Let me just give you perhaps maybe one example on our continent and then another example outside of our continent. In the UK, during the lead up to the Brexit vote, I think that there was a lot of threat on the lives of MPs, I mean, from both sides. To the extent that at that time, the British House of Commons had to beef up the security of MPs. In Uganda, if you remember, I don't know whether you ever followed Ugandan politics. There was a time when they were voting a constitutional amendment clause to allow the current president Museveni to run for office again, and that led to a lot of tension in that country, to the extent that an MP was gunned down together with his brother, and at that time, the country decided that, look, it is time to protect members of parliament, and security was given to almost every member of parliament. In that case, in the case of Uganda, actually, already members of parliament had some form of security in the form of police protection. But the police at one point said, no, this work is too risky and we can't handle it. So they had to bring in the military to protect members of parliament. Of course, Uganda is not Ghana. Their story is different from us. But, I think that circumstances have given rise to this. And for me, I think on this occasion, I support the position of the government, I support the position of members of parliament.
So what about the larger population then? Because what they experience is what we also experience every day. There are traders who travel to different parts who are also stopped, just like in this recent situation, who are robbed. Should every citizen then also get personal police protection?
Yes, Mama V, I know that that's a very strong and valid argument. In the countries where security has been beefed up for members of parliament, I mean, it hasn't been a permanent thing. Whilst the government was doing that, they also had a plan. For instance, in Uganda, they had a 6-month plan to improve overall security in the country. So, I mean, whilst I support this, and I think that is a good idea, first of all, it shouldn't be a permanent thing. Secondly, I think efforts have to be made to ensure the human security of all of us in the country.
Efforts to protect all of us. Now the general public is or seem to be divided over this matter. We've been talking to some of you, and like I indicated earlier, some think it is in the right direction, but others think it is putting ahead of public interest or public concern what the members of parliament, it is a matter of putting the interest of members of parliament ahead of the public.
Well, I don't have problem with it, but of course, I think government should look at the general, to beef up the general security of, everybody here in Ghana. Well, I can't say no to, our MPs, because we all know the role they play. But, it all came when, in fact, the unfortunate attack on our MP, MFANTSEMAN MP, came. And aside the MP, there were people who, in fact, were also attacked. And the common Ghanaian, doesn't feel safe.
I really don't see the use, because it's like we are in an election and it kind of like always happens that there are attacks on MPs because of seats and things going on. So, and there are other areas where the police is more needed than just to escort MPs to go and campaign and then come back because of this. I think the MPs should be able to hire people who can take care of them rather than trying to like pick from the force where already people are not already enough to be stationed to other places that are really needed.
And I think the best thing the government can do is to put up a best preventive method, to prevent all this, what we're experiencing now. For example, what happened in MFANTSEMAN. So I think we can have it in that way for an MP, each MP to have one policeman, or it can be possible. We are not there yet as a country. Yeah, this is what I think I suggest.
I think it's necessary. They need protection.
Why?
Yeah, because if the MP shot to death, if he was to be having a protection, no one would have shot him to death. Okay. So it's necessary. They need it.
What about you? What about the citizens of Ghana?
The citizens of Ghana, we are protected. We have been protected, all right. But the thing is that, because we are ordinary human beings, as for the MPs, they have some rank. So, like, people target them more than we, the normal human beings. So I think they should be much protected than we, the normal human beings.
Okay.
It's very, very necessary for them to get a security, each MP, because if there was some protection, if there was a protection, I don't think the man would have been killed. Okay. So I think it's necessary for them to employ police for all the MPs. They are also protecting us. So they also need a protection from them so that they can be secured. Okay. Because if there was a protection for the MP, no one would have killed the MP because he was working alone.
Let's head to Parliament, where Deputy Defence Minister Major Odro has mounted a spirited defence, dismissing concerns that the move will affect security operations.
Because some of you, the media, you incite the general public against us. We must be frank. So the Interior Minister is saying that, yes, they have enough police people to provide security for MPs and provide security for the whole nation. That is why we have been giving, and we are thankful to the government of the day that today he has listened to us. How many of the MPs do you want them to be killed before we ask of this personal security for MPs? I don't think you are happy that our brother Kwanzaa has been killed. I don't think you are rather, or you are shedding crocodile tears. Yes. Or do you want JB Dankwa? He would have. He wouldn't have been killed if he had the security for himself. So we are saying that the law says that we should be giving. Don't give two and leave one. Okay. This is all that we are saying. And you shouldn't be annoyed that we ask for what we are required. That is what we need, and that is what the law says give us. Okay.
The concern being raised by security experts like
I don't want to hear security experts. I'm also a security expert. Listen.
But for example, they make the case that if you are taking 200 men off patrol duties, visibility duties, in the long term, 800 of them, certainly operational police work will be affected.
What work
visibility is likely to be reduced.
I am saying that they are visible all over the place. The Interior Minister is saying that he has no problem. You, the security expert, you are sitting somewhere and say we have problem. Last week, how many policemen passed out? Almost 2,000. Every 6 months they pass out, and you are saying that we don't have enough policemen. They cannot be adequate, 100%. Listen to me. They cannot be 100%.
The estimation is that we have more than enough that we can let 200, 800 of them.
I am saying that 200 that doesn't cause any harm to the police authorities. They don't have any problem. They are there. They say they don't have any problem. You are sitting somewhere and say I'm a security expert, and they have problem.
He appears to understand how this works.
He appears to misunderstand. He appears to misunderstand what you are saying. He doesn't understand the situation. How can you say that until and unless all the parliamentarians come to realization or are able to solve the problems of the killings in the country, are we responsible for the killing of the people? We make laws. We make sure that government should sit up and make sure that everybody gets adequate protection. So if something happens, we call them to parliament for them to come and answer. That is our responsibility. We don't have cane here to whip. We don't have, listen to me, we don't have cane here to whip sector ministers. We draw their attention for you and for me and for everybody. And they sit up. Are you aware that the minister said yesterday that the armed robbery rate has come down by 53% from last year to this year? If you compare the figure, are you aware that yesterday he said that the general crime wave has come down by 10%, 2019, 2020. You see, he said all these things. I'm happy you are aware. Yes. And therefore, if he is saying that because of the fact that we have produced more police people, we have produced more military, and we have given them adequate support, logistics, equipment, communication. Haven't you been seeing this CCTV cameras in town? You have been seeing when you go, it flashes, it's taking pictures. So we have improved the situation, okay? So we don't have the problem of providing security for the few members of parliament who are left. I am a member of executive as well as member of judiciary. Legislature. Okay, I have personal security because I belong to defense. And we are soldiers there to go along with me. Okay, my friends don't have. So the few people who have not, why don't you give them? So we make generality, we make general statement at home. How can we?
Just about a month ago, a university professor was killed in his home, and that is being dealt with. So then,
that is being what?
That is being dealt with by the
No, I'm also interviewing you.
Yeah, but the police said they are investigating. Okay. But the other argument being made is that should university professors also be asking for protection in the light of this, just because they lost one of their own? After you, the MPs lost one of their own.
Quote the law for me that university professors must be given personal security. Where you find the Ghanaian statutes? Ghanaian law, where?
Then it means that Parliament...
You have a question, let me answer him.
You should be consent to enact laws to take care of these people.
Bring it, bring the idea. You are okro mouth. Okro mouth in the sense that whatever comes to your mouth, you throw it out. So let it come out of your mouth that yes, Parliament make laws that university professors must be given security. That media, every person there, you holding your mic here into my mouth, you want to punch my mouth. You need security.
You are pushing this whole argument.
So it's not everybody. It's not everybody. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Are getting the protection based on the fact that their lives.
Talk. I must answer. Otherwise, me I won't listen to your question again. You talk and then you don't want me to answer, and then somebody will pick it up. He couldn't answer that question. I am not the type. I am saying that the law makes provision. The law that we have has made provision for security for members of parliament, security for Article 71 office holders, period. They must be given. Don't give two and leave one. This is what we are saying. Okay? If the law says that you, as a journalist, must be given protection, the law must be applied.
That's your Deputy Defense Minister speaking to my colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo and some other journalists in Parliament. Joseph is joining us, but I want to hear your thoughts on some of the answers that we're getting to the questions we're posing to the Member of Parliament. The number is 0540109009, 0540109009. Now, you'll be going to the polls shortly. Do you feel safe? Do you feel secured enough? And do you feel that you're getting the sort of answers that you deserve as a Ghanaian? Based on all that has happened. Let's go to Parliament right now, talk to Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Hello, Joseph.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Joseph. Quite an encounter you had there in Parliament today.
Obviously, so this is one of those conversations that's still been ongoing on the presence of Parliament. On the floor itself, the issue about security for MPs hasn't since come up, but on the presence of Parliament, we've all been discussing that. You saw that conversation with the Deputy Defense Minister. I've also been interacting with the minority leader, Harun Idris. You know, we've really not heard from the minority side, although the minority leader himself was on the side of the Interior Minister when he addressed the media yesterday. Well, the minority leader also holds the position that MPs are also Ghanaians. They deserve their security. What they're asking for right now is something that's enshrined in the Constitution for Article 71 office holders, and a lot of other public officers have that. And so if the MPs are also getting it, then there's nothing wrong with it. So it's obviously one of those things that both on the majority and the minority side, one of the few things that on both the majority and the minority side, there is a holistic support for it.
Well, Joseph, over here, I mean, generally we've been speaking to people and the reaction has actually been mixed. You have people who believe that by going quickly, to Parliament to respond to the call because one of their own died, and I'm talking about the Interior Minister, and to have Parliament defend it the way it has, even both sides, majority and minority, which, by the way, rarely reaches consensus. To have them quickly reach a consensus on this means that they're putting their interest ahead of all of us. But there are other people who say that these are special, group of people in the country. Do you have anybody at all in Parliament who sides with those who think that Parliament perhaps should have just not considered their own interests, but also have thought about the citizenry as a whole?
In fact, in conversations with MPs, those that I've come across who appear to hold a slightly different position are MPs who are outgoing, so MPs who are not returning to Parliament from January 2021. And they then make the point that they wouldn't need those private security people because they are not campaigning. It's just about 2 months to come, after which they would have to then become private citizens. So I've actually had conversations with outgoing members of Parliament who make the point that they will not take this police bodyguards that are being deployed to them. It's a personal decision that they've taken because they only need them over the next 2 months, and after 2 months they are done here in Parliament. I've had conversations with ministers of state as well who make the point that they are entitled, but they've actually not had use for it over the last 3 to 3.5 years. And so they go on to make the point that they all, despite making these points, agree with the principle that the deployment should happen. The MP should have these personal bodyguards. The MP should have additional day and night security in their houses who are police people. But they go on to say it should be given to them so that those who don't have use for it will decline use for it. But they think it's out of place that several years after the Constitution came into place, other Article 71 office holders actually have this, but the MPs don't have. And so it's time for them to assert their rights, and that for those who think they wouldn't have use for it, then they can go ahead and decline. But the very principle that they should have this kind of protection is something that they are insisting should be done by the executive arm of government.
All right. Well, the debate, like I said yesterday, has been settled for now. But Joseph, hang on with me a little while because we're still in Parliament. And the Speaker has acknowledged receipt of a letter from the governing NPP asking him, Professor Aaron Michael Quaye, to declare the Fomena seat in the Ashanti region vacant. MP for the area, Andrew Amankwa Esiama, who is in Parliament on the ticket of the NPP, filed his nominations to contest this year's election as an independent candidate. Now, the General Secretary of the party, John Boadu, has said that the MP ceases to be a member of the party. Listen.
We've not yet received a response from the Speaker.
What about your member who is in Parliament as your member of Parliament?
We've not heard from him. Initially, this move was initiated by the regional party in Ashanti region. His attention was drawn to Article 3(9) of our Constitution. That says that a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-election, automatically forfeits his or her membership of the party. And his attention was drawn to this part of our Constitution. He was invited severally to explain to us and also draw his attention to the fact that if he decides to file against the official candidate of the party, he automatically forfeits his membership. So we are only drawing the attention and notifying the general public that all those who will also follow suit forfeit their membership automatically. I think that it is also clear that I think within 60 days to election, it will be difficult to, if a member resigns or dies or vacates his position, as in this case, to have a by-election. So that is clear. The only thing that we want to send across is that you join a party based on your understanding and your agreement of what the constitution of the party is. So you don't renege on that and decide to do things on your own. You also have the national constitution that also is clear that if you are elected to represent a party in parliament, you have no right to either decide to be an independent candidate or join any other party or even cross carpet. And this is clear. We've had several examples of it happening in our fourth Republican constitution and dispensation. I think that we just want to send a clear signal to all that the party is not going to countenance a situation where members of our party decide to go independent with the thinking that if they win, they will join the party in parliament.
So that's John Boydu there for the NPP. So what does this mean for the MP with just over a month to the general elections? Joseph is still with me. Hi, Joseph. Do we know if the Speaker has taken a decision as yet?
I've been checking, and as to whether this is actually a document that the House actually has in its possession, is something that I've not been able to confirm. I've been speaking to the minority, the Haruna Jisu, who explains that it's still something that at the leadership level is being discussed as to what to do with the former MP. But he specifically made the point when I asked him about whether he'd seen a copy of the letter himself, and he says he hasn't seen a copy of the letter himself. Those on the majority side are very much tight-lipped on what the way forward will be. But the Constitution makes the point that once you decide to leave the party on which ticket you came to power, then your seat has to be declared vacant. But it doesn't happen automatically. One of two things would have to happen. Either the Speaker himself would have to probably, once he gets hold of that particular letter from the NPP, read that letter on the floor, and then based on that, then MPs will deliberate on the issue, and then the House will go ahead and declare the seat vacant after that deliberation. Or it could be that MPs, particularly on the majority side, or an MP could raise it on the floor of the House, and then the House will discuss it for the necessary approval to be given for the declaration to be done officially in the House before a conclusion can be drawn that the MP has the seat has been declared vacant. But for now, what is clear is that he remains an MP until those processes are triggered. The NPP, as John Boydu indicated, have actually written to the House. Those that have asked around, including the minority leader, who make the point that they haven't seen a copy of that letter, but then it's something that at the leadership level is still under discussion in conjunction with the legal advisors of Parliament.
Looks like a pretty dicey situation there. But Joseph, did you spot the Member of Parliament in the House today?
It's actually been a while. It's actually been a while since the Honorable MP for Femina, I spotted him in the House. And I didn't see him around today.
How are his colleagues reacting to this particular development?
And so those on the majority side make the point that the rules should be applied. They ought to be applied. They think loyalty to a party should actually mean something, and that they are, to a certain extent, not exactly happy that he did not even contest the NPP primary because he had concerns having to do with the album, and then decides that he would go independent. They think that that is not very much good for party unity. And then they make the point that even his absence wouldn't very much be felt because they have a very huge majority right here in Parliament. The minority side, the minority behind Idrisu has been asking a lot of questions legally as to whether the seat can actually be declared vacant, because they make the point that the Constitution refers to someone who decides to leave the party that brought him to power, and says it's under that circumstance that the seat can be declared vacant. But the minority leader goes on to ask, when you come to the Formina case in particular, the gentleman was sacked from the party. He didn't decide to leave on his own. And so there are legal questions that has to be, that have to be dealt with before then any such decision is taken. But then we're waiting to see. A lot of it is still at the discretion of the Speaker. If the Speaker decides not to raise this issue on the floor over the next 4 weeks or so that the House is sitting, then nothing happens and the seat doesn't get declared vacant. So it boils down to the amount of pressure that the NPP as a party would want to mount on the Speaker to raise the issue on the floor for a conversation, as to whether eventually the declaration of a vacancy would happen otherwise. Or the Speaker could just decide that, or the majority could just decide that everyone should probably close their mind to this for the next 1 week or so that then it doesn't probably become an issue. But as I said, it goes back to how much pressure the NPP will put on the Speaker in the majority to actually formalize the processes to get him to declare this particular seat vacant.
Let's see how that goes. But we're still in Parliament. Actually, a lot happening there. Now, the Speaker has also confirmed that there will be no by-election in MFANTSEMAN despite the death of the MP, Eko Hayford. The NPP has announced that the wife of the deceased will take over as candidate for the party. Listen to John Boydo, who is the General Secretary for the NPP.
The whole constituency leadership and party, the regional setup and the national setup, deem it fit that his wife is the backbone of the husband. She knows the constituency very well. And considering the large support that the husband has and the kind of difficulties that the constituency is going through, a lot more of the constituents think that we should let the wife continue.
Well, was this done by acclamation? Was there a formal process, again, going back to the party's constitution?
There was a massive consensus at the constituency. There was no dissent at all. Massive consensus at the constituency level, at the regional level, and at the national level. And we've had that discussion. We will formally announce it.
We know she was also a police officer. Has she resigned her position?
Quickly, she's done so. She's done so.
So, Joseph, what are parliamentarians saying about this as well?
So this came up on the floor of Parliament, and what you say is a very interesting circumstance, because on the floor, some MPs were drawing attention to what they say is misreporting within the media space that the wife is replacing Eko Hayford as MP. I'm not too sure where the MPs got that information from, that some media houses are reporting that the wife of Eko Hayford is replacing him in Parliament. But then they made that point on the floor and then went on to address the issue, including the minority leader, the First Deputy Speaker, Jose Usu, and the Speaker, Professor Mankokwe himself. And they went on to quote various portions of the Constitution that make the point that when a seat in Parliament becomes vacant 3 months to the next election, then a by-election will not be held, but everyone will hold on until the next election is held. So that's the principle that the Speaker has been confirming will apply, and that over the next 50 days or so, the MFANTSEMAN wouldn't have a representation here in Parliament until the next election. And just to point out, so it's the same principle that will apply even in Formina if the Speaker goes ahead to declare that particular seat vacant. There will not be a by-election, and everyone would have to wait for the next election for a decision to be taken as far as who represents the people of Formina, and in this case, who represents the people of MFANTSEMAN is concerned.
Joseph, thank you very much for that update there. We'll leave you to catch your breath on that. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is my colleague who is Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent. Well, this is not the first time that the party has made such a decision. Listen to this News Desk report.
This will be the third time a wife of a deceased member of parliament will seek to replace her late husband in the parliamentary election. In March 2016, NDC parliamentary candidate for the Shai Osudoku constituency, William Oklu died in a car crash few months after he had defeated the then incumbent NDC MP. The NDC opened another primaries to replace the deceased candidate, where his widow, Mrs. Linda Akwele Oklu, emerged victorious after defeating the then executive director of the National Service Scheme, Dr. Michael Pesa-White. Mrs. Oklu, a professional teacher, explained that her reason to contest was as a result of her ambition to fulfill the aspirations of her late husband. Mrs. Oklu went on to win the December 2016 parliamentary election. She is currently seeking a second term. Fast forward in November 2018, Emmanuel Chermatin Ejako, the NPP MP for the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency, also in the Greater Accra region, died in the US while seeking medical attention. His wife, Mrs. Lydia Al-Hassan, contested the seat in the famous Ayawaso West Wogon by-election of 2019, where she emerged victorious. Her swearing-in was characterized by protest from NDC MPs who held placards labeling her as Bloody Widow. And now to the latest. NPP General Secretary John Boadu says the party has settled on Mrs. Ophelia Hayford, wife of deceased MP, to succeed Mr. Eko Kwansa in the MFANTSEMAN constituency.
The whole constituency leadership and party deem it fit that we should let the wife continue.
Mr. Kwansa was shot by suspected highway robbers in the early hours of October 9 while returning from a campaign trip in the central region. Mrs. Ophelia Hayford, an assistant superintendent of police, has since Tuesday, October 13th, resigned from the Ghana Police Service to accept this new role.
A news desk report. We can now listen to senior lecturer at the University of Ghana's Political Science Department, Dr. Alidu Seidu. He believes it is a strategic plan to win the sympathy of Ghanaians. He spoke earlier on News Desk.
This has already the issue of sympathy vote. People often think that when you have a very sad incident happen this way, and then you choose a very close family relative of the deceased, it is likely going to win you sympathy, and you are likely going to win the seat. And historically, this has actually played off in the 4th Republic. If you look at Shai Osudoku, it happened. They selected the wife, and the wife won the seat. It happened at Ayawaso West Wogon. They selected the wife, and the wife won the seat. Even if you go back to 2012, the presidential election, when the late Professor Evans Atamils died, people believe the victory of the NDC, led by former President John Dramani Mahama, was influenced by some extent to the issue of sympathy vote. So, one, the whole concept of sympathy vote has been working. And it is now going to turn into a kind of precedent where when you have a sitting MP passes on, then eventually you need to select a very close family member who can draw in that sympathy vote, and then the party can retain that particular seat.
You're still here on Pulse with me, Gifty and Apia. I'm going to take a very quick break, but before we go, some of your messages coming in. This one says, Emma from North Kaneshi, I am surprised a deputy communication minister communicates in such a manner. Is it wrong for journalists who represent us to ask sensitive questions which concern us? Please, it's time our politicians take Ghanaians seriously. This one says, good afternoon, Gifty. The MP has answered the questions very well. The university community should provide security for their professors. Kizito Esel Kwansa sent that from Dunkwa on Ofin. The deputy minister just made my day. The law says the MPs must be given security. Full stop. Finally, this one says, this means our leaders don't think about us, the citizens. I am happy your reporter asked the deputy minister about the lecturer who was killed. How safe are we in this country when only the leaders are secured? God save the ordinary citizens. Kingsford sent that from Mankasim. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Apia. I'll take a quick break. When I return, day three of our focus on minority political parties as we gear up for the big debate later tomorrow. My guest for today who will be joining me after this break is the People's National Congress's David Apasera. Let's have a conversation. Welcome back to the show, and many thanks for staying with us. Well, they were the last to hold a Congress to elect national officers, and there were uncertainties as to whether they will contest in the December polls at all. But it seems they have managed to elect their flag bearer to contest in the upcoming elections. They face the two biggest parties, the NPP, the NDC, and other opposition parties for the seat to the Jubilee House. Now, do they have what it takes to compete and wrestle power from the governing NPP and the other contenders who want the seat? Well, my guest today, like I said, is the presidential candidate of the PNC, David Apasera. He believes he's got what it takes to lead the PNC back into power. Before I engage him, though, take a look at this report put together by Manuel Crampton, looking at the PNC story.
Founded by ex-President Hillary Mann in 1992 as Ghana returned to multi-party democracy, the People's National Convention was set up as a vehicle that would hopefully deliver the presidency back to Liman after the 1981 coup.
I call on all, in the true spirit of patriotism, to come together as one united country, determined to solve the many and difficult problems facing us. Let us marshal the rich human resources available throughout the country and together march forward in unity and service to the nation. All of us have a duty to work to salvage our shattered economy and regain the lost image and prestige of Mother Ghana.
Unlike his performance in both rounds of the 1979 elections, which won him the presidency, Hillary Mann, who led the PNC in 1992, managed 6.7% of total ballots cast, winning in only 5 constituencies across 3 regions: Upper East, Upper West, and the Western region. In contrast to his plan of recapturing power, Liman's abysmal show in 1992 will set a tone for the performance of the PNC in subsequent elections. In 1996, the party fielded a new flag bearer, Edward Nasigui Mahama, but its electoral woes deepened as it managed just 3% of total votes cast, less than half of Liman's tally in 1992, and losing all the 5 constituencies in the process. Over the years, Edward Mahama's mantra on job creation did not help the PNC garner the much-needed votes.
My campaign theme is New Beginning, New Deal, New Force. New Force, I'm targeting 18 to 35-year-olds.
Let's do it again. New Beginning, New Deal, New Force. Let's do it again. New Beginning, New Deal, New Force. Edward Mahama says, New Beginning, New Deal, New Force. Okay, so I should vote for the PNC for that.
Yes, the new force, I'm looking at the 18 to 35-year-olds. Okay. They are the majority of Ghanaians right now, but they feel helpless. They are unemployed.
The party managed to win the Bilsa South and Sisala West constituencies in 2008, but later lost the Sisala West seat. With its 2 seats in parliament reducing to 1, this trend will continue even after Edward Mahama was replaced by Hassan Ayariga, who obtained 0.22% in the 2012 elections. After the 2016 elections, the party made several attempts at merging with other Nkrumah's parties in a bid to boost their electoral fortunes. But Admona, who was party chairman at the time, was optimistic.
We are taking stock of our abysmal electoral performance, and then we want to move forward to see what we can do as a political party to attract the confidence of the people of Ghana to see us as the next alternative. Better. We have already initiated processes talking with the Progressive People's Party that I think they are serious with mobilizing like minds so that we can have a united front. We are also talking with the Convention People's Party.
Having failed to secure that merger, what political scientists argue could give a real chance to a third force in Ghana's elections, newly elected flag bearer of the party, David Apasera, is calling for renewed confidence in the party ahead of the 2020 polls.
I am going to work hard and let Ghanaians know that PNC is a vehicle that can carry you to the Jubilee House. We are going to hit the ground running. We are just with about 3 months to go. So I call on PNC members and all sympathizers, all those who had given up hope that the vehicle is awake again and we are driving straight at the 5th gear so that we can catch up with the others.
Can the PNC's vehicle really catch up with the elephant or blow away the umbrella? December 7 has the answer. For Joy News, Manuel Kranting.
JoyNews, in collaboration with the Imani Center for Policy and Education, put together an event dubbed Minority Political Parties Election Debate. The event is scheduled to take place at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA, tomorrow at 8 p.m. David Apasera is right here in the studio. Mr. Apasera, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, you just seen the video that we played, and I'll take your thoughts on a little bit of that as we go along. But then, how are the campaigns going?
Well, it's fine. We are beginning, and we are trying to get our manifesto together and then launch it. We also have to adore our running mate so that at least people see us. But from then, we should be moving from region to region.
Hopefully get into your 5th gear.
Yes.
But then, first of all, you were the last group to go to Congress. You've been pretty late. We're just a few days ahead of 50 days to the election, and you are now putting together your manifesto?
Well, you see, we had a difficulty, and then certainly our constitution says we must elect a flag bearer a year before the election. Unfortunately, this time we couldn't do it, and so we've found ourselves as we are now. But we don't give up. Okay. We don't give up. We have to do what we can.
Yesterday, I spoke to Hassan Ayariga here on the show. He was the party's flag bearer in 2012, who has subsequently formed his own party. One of the questions I have asked, which I asked everybody who comes on this show before the debate, is why the smaller political parties, or if you like the minority political parties, are not doing very well. One of the concerns that Mr. Ayariga raised is that the PNC was somehow bought, and smaller parties or the minority parties are somehow bought by the big parties, the NDCs and the NPPs.
I beg to differ. I differ with his opinion. I differ because I think that maybe we ourselves are not sincere in our approach to things. I don't think that there is any major party that comes in to buy you and tell you, please, don't merge. But you see, we have various parties, and people want to be in leadership positions. Now, also, we are not able to approach a unity.
But haven't you heard this before? Haven't you heard this before? Well, because the point he made was that he said, and I asked him, was Mr. Dr. Edward Mahama bought by the NPP? And he said, well, you look at the person who has become an ambassador at large. He says, what does that tell you? He wouldn't say it with the words, but he said, what does that tell you? But have you had that kind of approach, big political parties approaching you and saying,
no,
join us?
As for that one, is for everybody.
It's normal.
And it's normal. I will tell anybody, I have some friends who are even in the bigger parties, and I've told them, look, come on board PNC, and then we fight it together. I say that, and they can as well talk to me that way. But I don't think that is a reason why we cannot unite. I think that we are not uniting because we don't want to, and we have some selfish kind of tendencies within us that is preventing us. If you tell me dissolve your party and come, you don't want unity. If you tell me, look, let's put our cards on the table and then we bargain. If you take this, I take this. That is where we talk about unity.
So
but
selfishness.
If you say, yes, I think so.
Selfishness is what is preventing the minority political parties to come together.
Either selfishness or we are not too serious about what we want. If we want unity, then we must say that all cards are on the table.
I see.
For unity.
You are a former member of parliament for Bolga Central. Well, if you look at the party you're standing for and the performance, in 2004 you did some good work. You had about 4 seats in parliament. In 2008 you had about 2 seats. But as we go along, we have gone down to 0. That is the PNC. In elections, you have performed quite poorly. 1.9% in 2004, 0.09 in 2008, which means it even came down from what you had in 2004. 2012, Hassan Ayariga put you at 0.22%, but by 2016, that 0.22 has become 0.21. What gives you the confidence that the party is in any good position to compete in this year's election? You see, I know every political party is driven by the leadership. If you have the passion, you may ask how much campaign we did. We didn't do anything. If you just sit and go around once, maybe not even all the regions, you don't expect to get it. So you don't expect to win this election? No, but I am saying that I will go around. That's why I expect something better. But you don't have time. Yes, I don't have time, but with the limited time, I should spend at least 3 days in every region, and the 3 days to take me to every constituency. How old are you, Mr. Pastera? Wouldn't it be a problem? I'm very strong. I'm fit. Okay. Yesterday, I left Accra by road. I was in Bolga, and then the day before yesterday, I went there straight into a meeting. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I got up and I went through 5 meetings. The last meeting ended around 9 p.m. and then I moved and then I slept on the way, and yesterday in the night, around 12, I was in the house, and this morning I'm awake. I'm still strong. We just need to let people know that we are serious about what we are doing. And I believe that, you see, now people are wondering. There are people who are disillusioned. That is the truth. People are there. They thought that, when we change to MPP, our issue of unemployment will be resolved. It has not been resolved. But it doesn't mean that those people are going to change it. Yes, so they will begin to look at who may help their situation. You think PNC is that person? And is that PNC, we are bent on doing a very wonderful thing for this country. I see. And we believe that people will buy into it and vote us. What do you say to those who say that the PNC is aligned to the NPP? That is not a true story. Maybe, I don't know what they are looking at. The thing here is that in 1992, we were all in opposition. And then we worked together. We worked together. 1992 election, to be honest, was not a coalition. No, well, everybody went on his own. But at the end of the day, the election was a bit fraudulent. It was not, that's why we boycotted the parliamentary election. You know, that time it was presidential first. In my constituency, I won hands down. PNC won hands down in 1992. But I was made to boycott because my leadership had agreed that we should boycott and force a more transparent elections. And then that's what happened. Okay. You know, so certainly, from there, we had to work together with the MPP and other opposition parties. We demonstrated together. We continued, and finally we had these elections, you know, some innovations that finally got us to even transparent ballot boxes. And so we worked together. Okay. 2000. So I just want you to answer that for me. I mean, I know there's a background to it, but because we don't have a lot of time, and I want you to be able to speak to your policy issues. We are not aligned to the MPP. No, we are not aligned. We are only. Would you consider? I mean, assuming we go into this election and there's we have to go into a runoff. Would you consider making your people join hands with a party like MPP? Well, when that comes, it's going to be a question of negotiation with either side.
But I believe that maybe it will be PNC and NPP going to the second round, or PNC at least being one of the second.
We'll see how it goes.
We see how it goes.
I've about 5 minutes for us to do this, and we're doing this to prepare you again for the debates, because at the debates you won't have much time, but you still have people you need to contend with, and you still need to make your points known. So I want you to talk to us about the PNC's alternatives that you're presenting when it comes to governance and policy. Let's talk about security. That has been the format for the other two people who came. In terms of security, how do you assess the performance of the NPP administration, and what different are you offering as PNC?
Well, I think they've done well, but you see, it is the normal process, and the normal process will not bring an end to what we are having, the highway armed robbery. We have a program. We are going to put in place a paramilitary organization that will be solely for fighting off people who are on the highway. And we are going to have their bases all over the regions, and we are going to deploy helicopter gunships for them. That if people are stranded here, they give a call, the next moment you have the helicopter on top there with well-trained security personnel.
You'll have helicopters flying all over the country?
Yes, certainly from every region you should have a base. And when you have a base there and you have your helicopter there, you can't run on the ground to save people.
If there are 5 armed robbery cases in one particular region,
but you cannot
deploy all.
Yeah, even if you have 5 armed robbery cases, and once the helicopter is in the air and the armed robbers on the ground know that the helicopter is in the air, they will leave the people and run for their dear lives. But if you say that police will use a siren, by the time they get there, the people have found their way out, and then the innocent people would have suffered. Apart from that, there must be a system, and I believe that what we are going to bring on board, armed robbery, highway armed robbery, will be a thing of the past.
It's easy to say it, but I wish I had more time so that I can debate you on the reason why you think what you're offering, this deployment of helicopters, will help deal with the issue of armed robbery. What is your assessment? Was the first question of the NPP's administration's handling of security in this country?
Well, I think that they have done well. They relied on the police, they relied on the whatever security agencies that we have, and I think that they have well resourced them to undertake that. And that is all that I'm saying. Unless you bring in a new thing, that old system that we have worked with, we are failing. We are failing because the armed robbers are everywhere. And I was even attacked. Fortunately, yes. And I was.
Before we get into your attack, how, in terms of percentage, what will you give to the administration? You said they've done well. You believe that they've resourced the security agencies?
Yes, I think so. Because when there was this attack on the police in Tamale, within a week, they were able to apprehend the criminals.
Someone has died since 2016, a member of parliament, who have not been able to unravel that particular death. Recently, another one has occurred. There have been violent clashes, across the board, apart from these armed robbery cases. So I just want you to, from your perspective, if you were to rate them percentage-wise, how many?
Well, I can say, dealing with the usual system, I can give them over 80%.
Over 80%? Yes, that's an A, probably A plus.
Well, it depends on how you rate A and B. But I am saying that
usually between 70 upwards.
Yes, we cannot say that it is, because if you have a system that...
if they are performing this well, then we don't need any other political parties.
They are performing this well, but still, we need more than that, because people are suffering. People are suffering. That's what I mean. People are suffering. Right. People, somebody has lost his life.
Yeah.
So even though it is not on a daily occurrence, it means it's being managed.
Well, yes. I just need to correct myself here. So A is 80, between 80 to 100. To have an A is 80 to 100. B is 70 is a B. So
I will give them a B.
If you score a B, you've still done very well, yes, and we should give you a chance to get to A, rather than remove you and bring someone else who will start from scratch.
The thing here is this: that you cannot get the A with the status quo. You cannot get the A with the status quo. The way it has been handled, that's how it has been handled, and people are suffering. So we need a new thing that will add to complement what has been used, and then we will have an A. And we are coming to have an A.
What would you do if you were president in these times? A lot of people are saying, well, you know, we're not feeling safe, even members of parliament are being attacked. What would you do in a few seconds if you were president
if I were the president, that's what I'm saying, I will marshal my security agencies, and then we sit down, and then we look at a new thing to bring on board, to add.
Which is the helicopters.
Which is the helicopters, the paramilitary training that we have to give. And then we will be positioned in every region. Okay. And wherever there is a problem, there is immediate response.
Okay.
Once there is immediate response, you will have people being scared of.
Let's talk about education. It's again one of the things that all the people who have come here, both the people who have come before you, talked about. Free SHS is one of the key policies of the NPP that people have hailed. It has its own problems, but people have hailed it. What do you see wrong with that particular policy, and how will a PNC government fix that problem?
Well, I think the only thing I see problematic is, you know, if you get everybody into secondary school, you should be thinking about the infrastructure. If you don't have the infrastructure, people, like this shift thing, people are not comfortable with it. And so that is where I think it's a problem.
Okay. So for the APC says it will do a free education from basic, but then at the higher you go, you need to prove, you need to merit a free education. The CPP says free education through and through, from scratch to tertiary education. What is PNC's position?
Our position is free from day one up to the last level. You see, most of us went through that same system. Most of us went through where you were given a pencil and a book and then everything, and then you grew like that. I think that is the thing. You see, there are some people who cannot rise to the senior secondary. If their parents have to do it, they cannot. And if you walk through the street, you see some children walking about, either carrying water to sell or begging. Now, these are not only foreigners. Some of them are citizens.
So you give them free education?
Yes, we give them free education from day one.
Do you think the country has the resources to support that? Because already we've seen the issues that we've had with the free SHS.
Even the free SHS, people thought that wouldn't happen.
So
some people were afraid, and I'm happy this current regime have been bold enough to take it on. It's working. It's working. It has saved a whole lot of people.
It's working, you say. Yes. Let me take your quick thoughts. I'm wrapping up. Let me take your quick thoughts on health, the NHIS, and how it has helped us. Right now, there are still issues with it. What is the PNC going to do about it?
Yeah, we prescribed, we had said we needed health insurance. Fine. But the health insurance might cover everything. We are seeing that we can have health insurance. Yes. But government has to bear the real cost of health needs of
for everybody.
For everybody, and then the health insurance comes to help. You see, when you have health insurance and people get sick and they cannot get treatment, then what is the use of it?
So free health insurance for everyone.
Not that free health insurance. We are going to give you free health care, free health care. Then the health insurance will still be there. It's a premium, fine, but that. It doesn't mean that if you don't, the health insurance will be limited so that you are sick here and you cannot be taken care of by health insurance. So what is the use of that health insurance? A whole lot of people get sick.
So I want to get the point there. Is it that you expand the things or the illnesses that the health insurance covers?
We will expand the illnesses that the health insurance covers, and government will take part of the cost.
I see.
So that you have, you don't go there and then you are feeling you can get treatment.
So cost sharing, to keep the NHIS going. I have to wrap up here, but Mr. Pastor, I want to give you an opportunity to speak to the people who will be voting on December 7. What is the PNC offering that is so peculiar that they should leave the big political parties that have made so much noise and campaigns, etc., to vote for the PNC and Mr. Apasera?
PNC is going to give you. We are going to go into agric. We are going to mechanize agric. We are coming into your community. We are going to buy the land and allow people to cultivate. We will have machinery in the community, and then we will produce and export, and then whatever we get as profit, 30% of it will be retained at the community level to help you. We are coming and we are going to look at the health system. Right now, cars from Bolga, they carry cylinders to Kumasi to fill just oxygen. Now, if you are sick, oxygen is a very rare thing that you can afford. We are going to have oxygen machines all over the regions, and we fill them there. And then it should be the cheapest thing to survive a human being. We have that, and we're going to change this. We are going to look at contracts that we have signed regarding energy. We have to bring down the cost of energy if we have to industrialize. Right now, we cannot do it. So we have a lot to do for Ghanaians. Okay. We pray that Ghana, they will see PNC and David Apasera as a vehicle that will take them out of their woes. I call on them to vote for us.
The vehicle that will take you out of your woes, he says, is calling on you to vote for them. Is PNC the party for you? Do you think they should be merging with more of the other parties? Well, December 7 is when you get to choose. But tomorrow at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, they will all be there for that big debate. Mr. Apasera, I wish you all the best at the debate tomorrow, and thank you very much for coming. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty and up here. Take a very quick break. We have a few things to do. We'll be going to Germany as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A Deputy Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, has described some comments made by NPP MP Kennedy Agyapong as scandalous. These comments are the subject of a pending contempt case against the MP. The Supreme Court today ruled that the case is transferred to a different High Court judge after Mr. Agyapong's lawyers accused the judge hearing the case of being hostile. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
Everything is fine, and there should be no trouble or unnecessary speculation.
A member of Mr. Agyapong's legal team, MFANTSEMAN, had earlier described the trial presided over by Justice Wuni as healthy when they appeared before him at the High Court.
There is a trial going on. Parties are having a healthy exchange. There is a healthy exchange between the bar and the bench. We have had a healthy engagement, and we would want to maintain that.
The legal team on Wednesday, however, accused the judge of being hostile. They said he had indicated he was a live wire and would electrocute the MP since he had touched him. They also said the comments the MP made referred to another judge and not Justice Wuntawuni. They urged the court to stop him from hearing the case. Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame opposed the application by Mr. Agyapong's lawyers. He said the application assumes that the mere separation of the High Court into divisions makes it different. He argued there is only one High Court and can take up any matter of contempt. He therefore urged the court to dismiss the application, describing it as unmeritorious. He, however, reminded the court that it had the power to grant the application if it finds that in the course of the contempt proceedings at the High Court, due process was not followed. The 5-member panel comprising Justices Bafo Boni, Yao Apeu, Gabriel Paman, Amadou Tanko, and Yoni Kulendi ruled that the case be transferred to a different judge. A member of the legal team, MFANTSEMAN, says they have indicated.
At the hearing, you realize that the court itself took note of the emphasis we place on paragraph 19 of our affidavit in support. And all of you were at the High Court. You were witnesses to proceedings, including matters that I would not want to make reference to. But we respect the court system, and we believe that at the end of the day, what we want is for justice to manifest, and that is all we want.
And that'll be it. Tomorrow we'll go to Germany and talk about the coronavirus situation because it is getting worse by the day. We'll bring you all that update tomorrow. I'm Gifty Andopia. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. But mind you, the PRESEC winners at the Jubilee House right now. They're meeting President Akufo-Addo, and they have just started. The program has just started. We can listen to it briefly before we go on to Let's Talk Showbiz.
in keeping with the tradition which you've established since you assumed the presidency of the Republic, winners of the National Science and Maths Quiz always deem it appropriate to call on you to present their trophy and receive words of inspiration and commendation. And so this afternoon's gathering is basically for that purpose. So on behalf of the President, I welcome you all to this event. And without much ado, it's my pleasure to invite the Managing Director of Prime Time, that's the organizers of the National Science and Maths Quiz 2020 edition, Nana Ikuya.
And of course, you see our three strong boys from Presec. They are making Presecans all over the world very proud right now, but it took their efforts, as you know. It's streaming live at the website or at the social media handle of the presidency. President Akufo-Addo's page on Facebook is streaming in live. You can take a look, but we'll bring you more of that in our subsequent bulletins. I'm Gifty, and up here, more news at myjoyonline.com if you do log on.